Hi, I'm Krista Jacobson, headmistress of the Buddha-Ryukai, where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what's the best fighting position for self-defense. This is an ongoing topic, and it's going to be a consistent ongoing topic within the world of martial arts because there's different types of martial arts out there, whether it's traditional martial arts, sport martial arts, etc., and everyone has their own opinion. But today we're going to break it down and really look at what is the best fighting position for self-defense. Now, we've all seen sport martial arts. We've all seen the fighting arts like boxing, kickboxing, MMA. It's flooded in the media. We've seen various different boxers stand a certain way for boxing matches. We've seen various different kickboxers stand a certain way for kickboxing matches. We've seen various MMA fighters stand a certain way for MMA. But we've also heard the old saying that that's a great way for sport, but the sport style of martial arts isn't good for self-defense. But is there any type of principles that they're using that can be applicable for self-defense? That's the question there. But on the other side, we see traditional martial arts, such as like ninjutsu or bujutsu or kobujutsu or taijutsu, and the way that people stand with their taijutsu, or classical Japanese or traditional Japanese martial arts, and the way that they angle their bodies. And a lot of times people look at that and say there's no way you could use that type of body angling or standing in a certain way or blading yourself off. That's good for traditional martial arts. It's good for an example, when the ninja and samurai were on the field of battle, they stood that way because they were wearing armor and they had a spear and a sword, and those stances are good for that, but this is not good for self-defense either, right? So if the old argument of the sport martial arts and the way that they do their stances isn't applicable for self-defense, and then the traditional martial arts of the ninja and samurai is good for the field of battle at their time in history, but it's not really applicable for self-defense, again, those are the arguments. Well, what's the best fighting stance for self-defense? And are the people that are doing sport martial arts, are they doing something correct that can be used for self-defense? And are the people that are doing the traditional martial arts or doing taijutsu and things of this nature, are they doing something that would be applicable for reality-based self-defense? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, before I begin, I always give a shout out to all of my new viewers. So if this is the first video that you guys have seen of me, my name is Krista Jacobson. I'm the headmistress of the Buddha-Ryukai, which means School of the Warrior Way. We teach Koryu Ninjutsu and Koryu Bujutsu, so the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. This organization does have other areas of focus, such as reality-based self-defense, weapons training and tactics, survival skills, martial arts theory, thought, and philosophy, martial arts conditioning. If any of these topics interest you at all, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell. I do post 2 to 3 videos every single week, so if you're interested in any of those topics, please subscribe, click the bell, and keep up with what we're doing. Right, so today we're going to be talking about what's the best fighting position for self-defense. Now, we're going to be looking at this from 2 specific categories. We're going to be looking at the way that we see sport martial arts or competitive fighters line up against their particular opponents. We're also going to be looking at some of the classical kami that we see within traditional martial arts and how they line up against their opponents. And then from there, we're going to determine, for reality-based self-defense, how should you angle your body in a fight. Now, before we start talking about the sport martial arts like boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, we're going to have to explain what the strength box is. Now, for some of you guys who were competitive athletes, all of you guys know what a strength box is because it's taught in almost all competitive sports. But for some of you guys who are never competitive athletes, you might not know what the strength box is. So we have to talk about the strength box because the philosophy and principle of the strength box is applied to all sport martial arts, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, or MMA. Now, the strength box is the box that we see that starts from this shoulder, down to the hip, and back up. This box that we see right here is called the strength box. This strength box is crucial when you're doing any type of athletic competition at all. It doesn't matter whether it's sports like basketball and football and all that type of stuff, or whether it's competitive fighting, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. You're going to have your strength box face your opponent. The reason for that is if I was wearing a jersey, then my numbers face my opponent. But if I could put this strength box and face my opponent, I know that I can utilize in an efficient manner my strength, my speed, and my quickness. When we work out as athletes, this strength box is very crucial for the training. I bench press here. I do bent over rows here. Bicep curls here. Tricep pushdowns here. The vast majority of training that we do, we see within this strength box. What we don't do bench press this way and bicep curls this way, because doing bench press this way is not as efficient as doing bench press this way. Which comes into the argument, because you see sport martial arts stand with their strength box facing their opponent like this. Notice my box is facing this way, where you see traditional martial arts turn that away and stand like this, which it doesn't seem to be as efficient, because we know, utilizing sports science, that this strength box facing the opponent, you are going to be more efficient with your speed, your quickness, your strength, and your power towards the opponent. So in all sports, again, whether it's boxing or kickboxing or MMA or whatever you're doing, you see this facing your opponent. And that is a crucial aspect when you're looking at the sports style martial arts. Now, before we start looking at combining the traditional martial arts, you have to understand a particular term called Shomitsu. Shomitsu means initial secret, and anyone who's studying classical taijutsu, you guys know there are various different what we call taimitsu, or the secrets of body motion. Shomitsu is the first secret, and it's the one that we're going to be talking about today. Now, Shomitsu refers to the middle meridian. It starts at the top of the head and it comes all the way down the middle of the body. So this is also where we see all of the chakra. However, this is also where we see all the vital points and areas that someone would want to attack in a self-defense situation. An example, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the throat, the heart, stomach area, the groin. These are the strike points that anybody would want to attack if you're in a reality-based self-defense situation. It's right down that middle meridian that we call Shomitsu. So in a traditional martial arts perspective, they always turn this Shomitsu away from their opponent, because they don't want to give their opponent an opportunity to strike these soft tissues and these areas that they want to strike. So although in sport martial arts, you see the strength box facing their opponent, so they can punch harder, they can be faster, move side to side. In sport martial arts, you don't have that fear that you're going to get your eyes gouged out, your throat, your groin, your knees buckled in, because those aren't the rules that we see in boxing and kickboxing and MMA. So they stand this way because they want to utilize their strength and their power and their speed and their quickness, which is completely understandable in the realm of boxing and kickboxing and MMA. Standing like this and putting your strength box to your opponent so you can be more efficient with your strength and power and speed and quickness makes total sense. But if you're going to fight somebody that doesn't really care about the rules, and they are going to, gouge your eyes and claw your throat and kick you in the groin and buckle your knees, then standing like this is probably not going to be your best advantageous position. However, in traditional martial arts, you see that they take that Shomitsu and they turn it away and they angle their body this way. That way, all the soft tissue that we're talking about down that middle meridian of the Shomitsu, the eyes, the nose, the throat, the heart, the groin, it's turned away from the opponent, and they're standing this way to not give their opponent an open target. Now, don't turn off the video yet, because this isn't as simple as just, sport martial arts tend to stand in a certain way to utilize speed and quickness and strength and power, where traditional martial arts angle their body to not give strike points to their opponent in a self-defense situation. It's actually more complicated than that, and we need to look at the complexities and the dynamic motion of the two positions. So what we're talking about is, when you look at most sport martial arts, boxers stand like this, kickboxers stand like this, MMA fighters stand like this, a variety of this, but nonetheless, their hands are in, they're right in, they're putting their strength box to the opponent, they're driving their punches, they're going to put themselves in a position to be more lateral with their motion, explode off here, turn, get their hips motion, put in more power and strength into their opponent. That's what they're trying to be the most efficient as possible in the realm of a competition sport. Fighting sport, again, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. It's going to be some variation of this. The strength box, forward, hands up, bending the knees, and it's going to be in some variation of this, right? But then when you look at traditional martial arts, again, it's going to be some variation of this, where they're turning their Shomitsu away from their target and they're in this position, right? Now, I think that we can all say that this is just way more efficient moving, right? Moving and exploding than this. However, the argument is going to be, in a reality-based self-defense situation, you are prey. See, in sport martial arts, you guys get weight classes. It's going to be lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight, super heavy, etc. There's going to be a weight class and there's going to be rules. So if there's going to be a weight class and there's going to be rules, you would want to be in a position to utilize your speed and quickness, power and strength on your opponent so that you could win the competition. However, on the traditional side of martial arts, that doesn't matter. There is no weight class when you're doing self-defense. The reality of it is, if you're in a self-defense situation, the opponent has picked you out as prey. They are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they're quicker. That's why they picked you out. They picked you out because you're prey. And if they are not bigger, stronger, faster, and quicker, I guarantee you there's more of them, or they have a tactical advantage, whether that's the knowing of the terrain, the area that they're in, and the use of weapons. I also want to point out that what we're talking about today is specifically for empty-handed combat, because once we start talking about weapons, what we're talking about with the Shomitsu and the strength box gets thrown out immediately, because in weapons training, even in traditional martial arts, you show your quote-unquote strength box to your opponent. An example, if I'm doing taijutsu, I'm going to turn that away because I don't want the opponent to have access to the eyes and the heart, the stomach, the growing, and I'm in this position, right? But if I'm doing classical swordsmanship, when you see things like Chudan no Kamae, I'm going to line my body straight up. The sword actually takes place and gets aligned within that Shomitsu. So we have things like Chudan no Kamae, Geidan no Kamae, etc. But when we turn the sword away and it's not in the middle meridian, then you see us turn the Shomitsu away from the target in positions like Waki no Kamae, Ushiro no Kamae, etc. The same rule is applied to all types of weaponry, whether it's traditional or modern weapons. This idea between Shomitsu and strength box gets thrown out the window when we're specifically talking about weapons. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear. We're not talking about use of weapons. We're talking about empty-handed combat. A lot of times in martial arts, we do things kind of to the extreme to develop a certain amount of skills, whether that's just body motion, body control, strength, agility, flexibility, things like that. So not always is every single thing that you do in martial arts have to be exactly applicable to a self-defense situation. Sometimes they're just drills and skills and positions used to get in better shape, to get more flexible, things like that. Now, this is not me defending traditional kamae. This is me being real. The majority of people will look at a traditional kamae and they will look at that and say there's no way that that particular stance is applicable in a real fight, in a reality-based self-defense situation. What they're missing is the use of the kamae, not the position itself. If I line up in a traditional kamae, what you see, if my opponent is in this position right here, if I slide back and you see that I'm going to be taking a particular stance, right? At this opponent here, I'm not showing my eyes, my nose, my heart, stomach, growing. It's away from the opponent, and I am just like this. Right? Now from here, when I'm doing my defense, right, whether it's uke, waza, whatever we're doing with defense, right, or if I'm using, tai sabaki waza, or I'm angling off, or whatever I'm doing, right? If I'm here, I'm still not giving them those soft targets that they want. It doesn't matter whether they hit me in the shoulder or what those kind of things, right? That's perfectly fine. I just don't want someone that's probably in a much bigger weight class than me, might have a weapon, have access to the eyes, the nose, and everything down that middle meridian, right? We don't want to give them the Shomitsu. So if I'm here, what you do see, and this is the most important part of this whole thing today, is what you do see is they're always going to show their Shomitsu at the moment of impact. What do I mean by that? If I line up, and I know my head's not in it here, but if I line up like this in my kamae, when I turn to hit strike, notice when I strike, I pivot my hip, I turn on the ball of the foot, and at this one moment, my Shomitsu now has come into the camera. I'm going to strike and then come back. At that moment, that instant that I hit, I strike, strength box to the opponent, and then I pull back into position so I can now be defensive and not give that up. Another crucial aspect to look at when we're looking at kamae within traditional martial arts or fighting stances within self-defense is when I take a position like in traditional martial arts, whether it's taijutsu or something along those lines, when I'm angling my body off, I've created a lot of distance between me and my opponent. If my opponent has a bludgeoning weapon like a stick or something like that and they want to beat me with it, I've created a lot of distance for them to come through to get to my head, right? So if someone has a stick and they're trying to hit you and you lean back away from the stick, you've created a distance to where you can then use the body alignment and distance to take advantage of the space. But if I stand like this, I'm giving them the target they want to hit you in the head with a bludgeoning weapon. So it doesn't make sense to stand like this when they have a stick. If they've got an edged weapon and they're trying to lap you open, of course you want to run. You don't stand around with it. But if you have to fight, you don't want to do this when they have some sort of edged weapon. You want to turn your body away and be in a position to where they don't have those vital areas, the growing, the stomach, the throat, and you're getting in a position to keep you away from that edged weapon. So again, with the sport martial arts, there's rules. You can't kick them in the knee, you don't kick to the groin, you don't gouge their throat, you don't gouge their eyes, you don't pull the hair. There's so many things that you don't do in the sport martial arts, which gives them the ability to stand in a way to utilize their athletic abilities, speed, strength, power, and quickness. But in a self-defense situation, the predator goes after prey. And more than likely, they're going to be bigger, stronger, faster, and quicker. They're going to have a bludgeoning weapon like a stick to hit you, or they're going to have an edged weapon and they're trying to come after you, or they have a firearm, or they're going to have multiple attackers, or they're going to know the terrain better than you. Regardless of the situation, they're picking you out as prey because they have some sort of an advantage. From a self-defense perspective, when that self-defense situation happens, you want to quickly angle your body off, take away what they want, right? Assess the situation, and then use the applicable technique in that situation. So the question today was, what's the best fighting position for self-defense? For me, I'm going to say that I think the traditional martial arts and the way that they angle the body is more applicable for reality-based self-defense. That's not taking anything away from boxers. They're great at boxing, and the kickboxers are great at kickboxing, and the MMA is really good at MMA. However, they're positioning themselves in a way to utilize their power, their speed, their quickness, and their strength against an opponent that's not going to hit the soft targets that a traditional martial artist needs to turn away. So I don't think that you put anybody, a thug on the street that knows how to be good at being a criminal and they're good at violence, because that's what they do every day, they're going to be able to take advantage of things like that, where traditional martial artists are trying to take that away. So there's my video today. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell. That way you guys can keep up with everything that you're doing. But what are your guys' thoughts on this subject? Stick it in the comment section below. Also, if you guys are interested in training in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, check out my website at budodyninjutsu.com. There you guys can see all the 7 traditions, the different philosophies and strategies that we teach. If you don't live next to one of our schools, you guys can always join the Budokai online ninjutsu dojo and start training that way. So thank you guys very much for your love and support. I deeply appreciate it. Until next time, take care, be safe, and good luck in your journey of Budo. Bye.